Welcome to Apricot Cottage Studio. Today we're going to do some cards using a stamp set and two different styles or time frames to use the same kind of setup for the cards. We're going to do an autumn card and a Christmas card. So we're going to use, for the autumn card, the greetings from the autumn greetings from the Autumn Greetings stamp set. And we're going to use the Poinsettia Petals again. When I get a new stamp and die set, I like to explore all the different ways that I can make cards out of them. And I don't like to make the same card twice, so I like to have a lot of variety. So for this card set, I decided I would use the green backing, the spruce, and espresso for the brown, and some gold to make it luscious. So I cut the card base at 5.5 by 4 1/4, and then I cut a piece of gold 5 1/4 by 4, and you can see that I use one of my favorite dies to cut out the middle because the gold is a little bit more pricey, and I want to use it for lots of things, and it's not going to show because I'm going to label it. So then I'm going to glue my espresso, and you can see that there's a little piece cut out of the piece of espresso, a little hole, but that's not a problem because I'm going to layer this on top of the gold, and you won't see that hole. Even it up. And then I took a piece of designer series paper, 4 3/4 by 3.5, and I'm going to layer that on as well. And for the poinsettia card, I'm using the poinsettia paper, and on the back it's got pine cones, so I could have used the pine cone paper, but I'm going to use the poinsettia paper showing. So a little bit of glue and layer that up. So that is the same card base for both cards, just with different DSP. So for this one, because I want to make this the Christmas card, I'm going to use a piece of the beautiful faux suede trim. It's nice and soft. And I'm going to put a little piece of tear and tape across the card. Try and get that straight. And it tears nicely. Take off the little paper backing off the sticky part and start on one corner. Put my faux suede ribbon across like that. That will keep it down nicely. And then I've pre-cut all of the poinsettias because in the poinsettia die set there's different size dies and different size of poinsettias, as well as leaves and the little berries and the piece to cut out the little piece of foliage. So I pre-cut that. I stamped them in soft suede just to give it a dark outline. And I cut one medium and one smaller, and then the next one I embossed with gold because I didn't need to emboss all of them. It became a little too much when I embossed all of them. And in order to give some dimension, I used 3D dots. And these are sort of bulky glue dots. You could just use glue if you want to glue it flat. But the 3D dots give it a little bit of a dimension, and I align it so that the petals are overlapping, like that. Another 3D dot. And then I'll put the gold piece on. Now I've left this one plain But on this one I used a little bit of crushed curry for a little bit of gold on the edges. And I think I will add that to the top. So I've got my crushed curry, and I'm just going to streak it a little bit just to give it a little bit of dimension. And maybe a little bit at the back. There we go. So that's ready to go on, and I'm going to glue that on, not use glue dots because it will make it too bulky. Like that. And I'm going to use some of the little berry fronds, and I've already colored one. So all I did to color that was use my marker in soft suede and colored the stems. I could have cut it out of brown paper, but then I wouldn't be able to have very light gold berries, and I wanted the berries to mimic the ones that's in the paper. Here we go. So now I've got 2 berry fronds, and I've also embossed with gold the fronds from the poinsettia petal set and die cut them out, but they're a little bit too long, so I'm going to snip the edges, and if I cut it right there, this gives me a little piece to use, and I'm going to just tuck one of this in, and that will coordinate with the spruce green. And I'm going to trim my berry stem so it's a little bit shorter. Put a little bit of glue, just a little dab on each one, and tuck it right in there. And then I've embossed Merry Christmas, the beautiful font that it comes in this set, and I'm going to tuck it in here, but I've got to trim it a little bit. There we go. And that will go right over the berries, but not covering up my beautiful suede ribbon. Little touch of luxury there. And that will slide in. Like that. And then I'm going to take another piece. When I'm die cutting and stamping, I like to do several of them, and I keep a little pot with all the extra pieces, and then it's easy to find some extra pieces, and it's a lot more expedient time-wise that way. And I think that's lovely. And I don't think I will add the extra berries. I think for this one I won't. I'm going to put in a liner in the inside. May magic and wonder bloom this holiday. You can see where I goofed up the stamping on one side, but I'll use the side I just flipped it over and stamped it again. And I'll put that right in the middle. And I'm going to add one of the gilded gems for the center of my flower. This set does have a beautiful pearl set, but I'm going to save that for my next card that I'm going to do. And I'm going to use the gold since I've got a lot of gold on my card. Use one of the larger ones, like that, for the center of my poinsettia. And there's my card. So I used the same setup for the autumn card. I used the spruce green and a piece of espresso, and put a piece of the designer series paper, and then I added my suede ribbon. And I have a beautiful, these are the beautiful acorns. They are quite heavy though, so I only want to put one of them on the card. And I've stamped Autumn Greetings on brown and put a piece of scrap gold around it. On this card I used green on the background, and this one I'm going to use the gold, and it's framed very nicely with that. Put a little bit of glue on there, but that is my title. And then I want to add some greenery. Now this is quite heavy, so adding a little large dab of glue and leaving it for a while will help put the charm on more securely. And I've cut a few leaves, and then I have the gold pieces that I cut off the fawns for the other card. So I'm going to add those. And I've got some green leaves that I die cut out. Actually, these came out of a paper pumpkin kit. So I'm going to add those as backing for my, create a little cluster around the acorn. There we go. So I'm using up the scraps. So there's my autumn greeting card. Same design, and just changing the way that the pieces are put in. So that's going to go aside to dry. Now, speaking of scraps, when I cut the designer series paper and the paper down to on my card, I had some strips left. So what I do is I take a piece of paper and I put some sticky tape on it, and then lay my strips all together, and then simply trim them on the back. So I'm not wasting any scraps. I have a little bowl on my desk that I drop all the scraps in. You never know when they're going to be useful. And now I have a little piece of backing paper that's quite unique with a pretty designer paper, and I can put that gold tag that I cut out of the middle of the gold paper, and I'm going to put that on there. I'm not sure if I want it straight. I've got another Merry Christmas, because of course if I'm going to stamp once, I'm going to stamp a couple of times. I'm going to turn this into a banner. So I'm just going to snip like this. There we go. And I've got another poinsettia that I cut out. So that will make another card. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed seeing the cards from the Poinsettia Petals and the fall card. And I'll come back again and show you some more cards with the Poinsettia Petals, because I have lots of ideas. Thanks for joining me today.